Hi, I'm Ellen from the Chili Dog. Today I am working on a pair of my best worsted socks, and I'd like to help you with a very common problem that almost every sock knitter has faced at some point. No matter what type of needles you're using for a small circumference project, it's very easy to accidentally create an extra stitch at the needle change. That extra stitch happens when you inadvertently create a yarn over before forming the first stitch on the needle. It's more likely to happen when you purl the first stitch, but let's look at how to prevent the problem for both knits and purls. I'll be demonstrating today on flexible DPNs, but the overall process is the same for rigid DPNs, 2 circular needles, or the magic loop method. Let's get started. I just finished working across the bottom half of my sock, so I'll rotate my knitting so that I can continue knitting across the top half of my sock. No matter what type of needles you're using, this is the point where some needle shifting occurs so you can start knitting. In my case, I just need to shift my DPN down so that the stitches are up at the tip so that I can start knitting. If you were using the magic loop method, this is the point where you would pull that back needle out, push the front needle in, and shift things around on your cord so that you could start knitting. But I'm not going to go into details about needle arrangement today. Before I pick up this needle with my right hand, I'm going to stop and think, where should the working yarn be? If you're making a purl, the working yarn needs to be at the front. If your next stitch is going to be a knit, the working yarn needs to be at the back. And in my case, I'm going to make a knit, so I'm just going to leave my working yarn hanging here at the back. Now I'm ready to tension my yarn, pick up that right hand needle, insert the needle into my first stitch, and before I form the first stitch, I'm going to make sure that my working yarn isn't going over my right hand needle. And it's not, it's held here back out of the way. So I can go ahead and form my knit stitch, and then since I only have one stitch, there's no funny yarn over or anything happening here, I could continue on with my round. Let's also take a look at this continental style. So again, I'm at the point that my needles are shifted. My yarn is at the back because my next stitch is a knit. I'm going to go ahead and tension my yarn with my left hand this time. Then I can insert my right needle to form my knit stitch. And again, I'm going to take a minute before I form that stitch to look and make sure that there's no yarn going over the right hand needle. And there's not. It's held back here out of the way. So I can go ahead and knit my first stitch. And since I don't have an extra yarn over here, just my regular knit stitch, I can continue on working my round. As I mentioned earlier, if you're not paying attention, you're much more likely to get an extra stitch when your first stitch is a purl, and you're about to see why. I finished knitting across the top half of my sock, so just like before, I'm going to rotate my work so that I can start knitting across the rest of the round. And again, I need to shift my needles into position so I can start working. And I want to take a look and decide, should my yarn be at the back or the front? If I'm doing a knit stitch, my yarn should be at the back, but I'm going to be doing a purl stitch, so I need to bring my yarn forward here to the front. I'm going to tension the yarn and pick up my needle, insert my needle to do my purl stitch, and then I'm going to take a look. Is the yarn going over my needle? And yes, in this case, I do have my yarn positioned so that it is over the needle. That's a problem, because if I go ahead and form this first purl stitch, I end up with the purl stitch, but also a yarn over before that purl stitch. That's that extra stitch that we don't want to happen. So let's take that out. So when I position my needle, if I notice that the yarn is going over the needle, all you need to do is pull the needle out and just make sure that your working yarn is under your needle. You don't want extra yarn overs. So now that the yarn is under my needle, I can go ahead and purl my stitch. And this time I only get a stitch. There's no unwanted yarn over there. So that's good. So now let's do it continental style. So again, I've rotated my work, shifted my needles. I want to make sure that my yarn is at the front, not the back, because my next stitch is going to be a purl. And then I can go ahead and tension the yarn in my left hand this time. And insert my knitting needle so that I form my purl. And again, when I stop and look here, the yarn, the working yarn, is going over the top of my right hand needle. That's that extra yarn over we don't want. So if I were to just continue on with this yarn over the top of my right hand needle, if I formed my purl stitch, what happens is I get that yarn over and then the purl. So I picked up an extra stitch there that I don't want. So instead, if you see that your yarn is over the needle, take the needle out. Make sure your working yarn is under the needle, and then you can go ahead and form the purl stitch. And this time you only get the purl, no unwanted yarn over there before it. And then you can continue on your way. The big takeaway from this lesson is to pay attention so you don't accidentally add an extra yarn over at the needle change when you're knitting socks or other small circumference projects. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel, The Chili Dog, for more knitting tips and tutorials. Until we stitch again, happy knitting!